They're ready for stardom. They're ready for fame. They're ready for their close-up.
Hey everyone, welcome to Little to No Research. This is a cultural commentary channel that serves no real purpose other than objective speculation. Today I wanted to talk about the similarities between drag culture and blackface as forms of entertainment. I'm not white, black, gay, a woman, or a crossdresser, so I'm hoping to approach this with as little bias as possible. I know that it seems like a bold, outrageous, and offensive claim, but I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you will see why they are the same. So first, let's ask the question, what is drag? Simply put, drag is men dressed in women's clothing. In entertainment, this goes back to even before Shakespearean theater, where women were generally not allowed to perform, so men would often dress as women and take on these roles, dramatic or comedic. The modern use of drag in entertainment can mostly be attributed to old, early 20th century minstrel and burlesque shows. For most of the 20th century, at least in cinema, drag has been used as a comedic device. However, closer to the turn of the century, figures like Divine and RuPaul, as well as movies such as The Birdcage, Tu Wong Fu, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, thrusted drag queens into the cultural mainstream, and now we have a much more modern context of what a drag queen is.
We dress up in women's clothes and parade around mouthing the words to other people's songs.
Now, this is by no means an attack on modern drag entertainment. Every movie I listed, I personally consider fantastic. Strike that, fabulous pieces of storytelling. RuPaul's Drag Race is a competition reality show, and I'm a sucker for competition reality shows. I just want to reiterate the objective reality of grown men dressing as women, singing, dancing, and doing a pantomime of what they perceive as female sexuality. Drag is not empowering for women, it is empowering for men. It seems odd that in an era where straight cisgender males are shamed for their perceptions of female sexuality, a group comprised of mostly gay men, on the other hand, are celebrated for what is objectively a male's view of female sexuality. 1997's Batman and Robin, a film directed by Joel Schumacher, a gay man, featured a scene in which Poison Ivy performs what is widely regarded as a drag performance and for some reason not just a burlesque striptease. Moulin Rouge, directed by Baz Luhrmann, a straight man married to his longtime production designer, has notably also made a great impact on drag and gay culture. At this point, I'm sort of just rambling in any case now. I just want to point out the hypocrisy of the critique of masculinity or misogyny, whatever you want to call it, in this era, when at almost every turn, the lens by which we see female sexuality is through a masculine lens, even in alternative spaces. I don't really have a good segue, so let's talk about blackface. What is blackface? Simply put, blackface is a performer wearing makeup to look like a black person. Much like modern drag, blackface's roots can be found in old minstrel and burlesque shows, and yes, even goes back to Shakespearean theater. During the first half of the 20th century, many depictions of diverse characters in film were in black and brown face, such as Laurence Olivier as Othello and Chuck Connors as Geronimo. This is a practice, for the most part, that is generally looked down upon today. From entertainers to politicians, many individuals have been criticized for the use of blackface over the past few decades. However, there have been some rare exceptions. Robert Downey Jr.'s use of blackface in the film Tropic Thunder is generally praised, as there was a meta-commentary both on the arrogance and ignorance of Hollywood actors in general. Inversely, the television series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has had multiple episodes criticized, even banned and pulled from syndication or streaming for the use of insert color face, for making the same commentary about the use of it in general, most of the time not painting these people as malicious racists, but just as ignorant. However, I believe most people should be able to tell when things are appropriate, and in recent years there have been several large-scale controversies involving both drag and blackface, politicians under fire for Halloween costumes, and drag culture's proximity to children, more specifically in education settings. If most people think blackface in children's cartoons or classroom is bad, then I would assume those same individuals think a drag queen in children's cartoons or a classroom would be inappropriate. These are both forms of entertainment that require life experience to understand the nuances. And yet, for some reason, at the highest levels of culture, from entertainers to politicians, blackface is completely demonized, and drag queens are seen as beacons of culture.
Is that fucking blackface, dude?
Get the fuck out, man!
While not doing much research, I did come across criticisms from the black community claiming much of the slay queen attitude and slang used by drag queens is an imitation of black culture and a form of blackface. However, given that RuPaul, a black man, is one of the biggest cultural figures in the drag movement, it's easy to see how modern drag queens are entangled with black culture. An interesting parallel that in the same way female sexuality has become entangled with drag culture, so too has black culture become intrinsically tied to blackface, as many scholars have noted this form of entertainment as a major exposure for black culture in general, regardless if it is truly offensive at its core. As a personal anecdote, I've worked with an actor in a production where they were cast as a black runaway slave, getting the role because of their naturally dark complexion and doing a fake ethnic black voice, some would have criticized as blackface. This actor had also played a role in drag in a previous production in a role meant for a woman, however this was played much more for comedy, and both times this actor gave remarkable performances. If one is okay, then so is the other. If it hasn't at all been made clear how blackface and drag queen culture are similar, then I will quickly reiterate why. Both practices can easily be traced back to Shakespearean theater. Both practices have the modern usage routed in early 20th century minstrel and burlesque shows. Both forms of entertainment are performers wearing hair and makeup to sing and dance as false representations of something they objectively are not. And that's okay. If you find yourself enjoying one while being offended by the other, perhaps it may be worth a look in the mirror. If one of these forms of entertainment bothers you, then so should the other. However, if you enjoy both or are offended by both, that's fine too. Originally, when I started making this video, I went into the idea that if one is perceived as wrong, so should the other. And by the end of it, I found I don't really have much of a problem with either of these forms of entertainment when there's thought behind them. I'm a big believer in free speech, and I'm against most forms of censorship. Performers are artists and should be able to express themselves. Art is supposed to make you feel something, and rarely is it the intended feeling.
That blonde chick's a dude? Oh, man.